Joining us from San Diego, California, we've got Antony Orozco. How you doing, sir?
Good. Today's been good. The morning's been slow, and then we're picking up with this interview, and then after this, we got some work to do, but it's a great start to the morning.
Before we get into your matches, I'm curious to know, what's life been like since competing at the IMMAF Worlds? What did you take away from this experience?
So once I fell to Sultan Omarov, I kind of had 5 days left in my visit to Serbia. So I had 5 days to kind of relax and start the process of like healing my body as well as healing my mind and getting prepared for what's to come. Once I had those 5 days in Serbia and traveled and enjoyed that time, I came back to San Diego and I didn't miss a day. I had a fire. I was, after just sitting on the loss and the wins, figuring out what was unique about those and what it exposed and what it showed me that I was doing well on. I realized that I just had come so far, but I had far to go. So didn't miss a day for like 20 days. And then I kind of came down with a little infection in my knee. So that forced a little week off. But since then, it's been gung-ho. It's been pretty much just me trying to get better because I believe I'm going to have my professional debut later this year.
Wow. May I ask which promotion? If are you allowed to talk about it, or?
Yeah, Cage Warriors is the promotion.
Okay.
And premier one in San Diego. So I don't even have to leave my backyard to fight.
Right.
Which that's where most of my amateur fights were. Actually, I think now I'm split in half. I have 6 international fights and 5 in my backyard. But that's really nice to be fighting in your backyard, hometown of San Diego, and then you can get a lot of companies helping you out that like just want to back their San Diego native, So it's a nice place to.
For sure. We're going to get into that. But for those who may not be familiar with you and your fighting style, how would you describe your fighting style, and what sort of stylistic influences would you describe them as, and what are your motivations for competition?
Yeah, my fighting style, it's kind of evolved. It really took a turn between Pan Ams and IMMAF.
Okay.
At Pan Ams, I think I was a little more set in my stance and kind of level changing and stuff, but like really trying to box before I would wrestle. At IMMAF and in the camp leading up to it, kudos to my coach. I feel like he's ahead of a lot of coaches. He's instilling a lot of movement and shift forwards. So I'm like shifting my shoulders forward, and then it's just very active, and I cover a lot of distance now. And I think that's the explosivity that MMA needs, and a lot of the high level strikers implement that. So that's what we've been working on. So I'd say it's a lot of shifting and distance covering in a short amount of time, as well as pairing that with my wrestling. And the wrestling on top is just, for me, I try to be as gruesome and heavy as possible. I've wrestled in college, so I know what it's like to kind of like drain someone's soul from them and have them not have any strength left. So that's my goal when I get on top. And then, I'd say that's myself. Just head down and aggressive.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to get into it in your matches. We certainly see that aggression and fearlessness and just this raw energy. We're going to jump into it, actually. Let's start with your first match, if you don't mind, against Ivanov from Bulgaria. What do you recall from this match?
So of all 3 of these matches, they all provided some good insight. I had some good fights in Pan Ams. I had some good fights in San Diego backyard. But the Bulgarian specifically, if we narrow in on that, I can recall pretty much the whole fight. It was so fun going into it, knowing I'm going to be fighting against a good striker. and it really had me like warming up right. It had me focused on the striking aspect, the head movement, my dashes forward. We he kind of stopped a few of my shot attempts in the beginning in the first round, and so I was stuck on the feet with him. So then it was just time to bang, and like who had better timing and who had better counters, and it I'd say it was going pretty even. Like we were both hitting each other pretty hard. And then I started towards the end of the round. So in the beginning of the round, I was threatening the shots. He was defending. Towards the end of the round, I finally got in on a shot, took him down, and I felt he was a little tired, and I felt he didn't have anything in him to stand up in those last 15 seconds. Right. And that was the first round.
Yeah, it was an interesting
So I took him down at the end.
Yes, sorry, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was an interesting first round because my strength was kind of like not showing out at first because I wrestled in college. So that's obviously like the background. But yeah, took him down finally in the end of the first round. But I felt that there was a little give there. And usually that's when the blood is in the water for me and I start to analyze the other guy's psychology. So I made sure that I watched how he looked, what his body was saying.
Wow.
And when my coaches came in, the game plan was quick. So they gave me the quick game plan, but then I needed to focus on him again. I saw he was sitting down. I saw he was tired. I saw he was breathing heavy. I saw they were shaking his arms. I saw someone that I could take out, So
right.
Then I can't recall if I took him down right away, but
you did, yeah. I think you clinched right away. I believe so. Yeah, you clinched right away and you swept and you slammed him and made quite a statement pronto.
Yep. Okay, so exactly. I think the game plan was let's finish it here, and so I took him down, slammed him, and then smothered him until I got that arm triangle. And back on it, that was one of the most satisfying wins because I had worked on quick submissions leading up to it. So right away, once I got that arm triangle sunk it in, I knew I had been there so many times in camp. I knew the little adjustments I needed to make and made those and choked him out right then and there. And then that's when I got up and I cheered so happily, and everyone probably was like, "Dang, he's pretty happy for that." But it was because there was so much that went into that one like choke. I instantly said, "That's what we practiced." Like it was just so satisfying,
Right. You felt a sense of completion, right? Because this is what you had been drilling, so you felt that sense of completion. I'm curious, can you tell us a bit more about your wrestling experience and how much of your wrestling has led you to become a mixed martial artist, and how much you lean on that? Obviously, you're a complete fighter. You're not just a wrestler. You're also a striker, submission artist, and so on. But can you elaborate on your wrestling history?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started wrestling in high school, and that was because I didn't make the baseball team.
Interesting.
So okay. I was forced to do another sport and find out like, okay, what can I just jump in? What sport can I jump into without having skill like leading up to it? Because they're always looking for just new guys to come in because wrestling just doesn't have the popularity. So I joined wrestling with no experience as a freshman in high school. I fell in love with it because the same aspect with MMA, it's like the work you put in is the work you get out. In baseball, if you miss a play, it's on your team and it's on you and your team. Everyone feels that. If someone messes up, it's on you too. So you can't really control a lot. That's why I loved wrestling. I wrestled throughout high school. I had some big wins, some big losses. Notably, like my sophomore year, I didn't make it out of league, which is just the 6 schools in my city. Like I didn't place even top 3, so I didn't get to go to the next tournament leading up to the state finals. That was a big hit to the ego. I ended up switching schools because I knew I needed something more.
Wow.
Switched school. The next year, I won league. I won the next tournament, and then so there's 4 tournaments. So I won the first 2 tournaments, and then the third tournament I fell out in, but that was a clear jump. So I had a lot of skill boost there, and this was with my new school. The fourth year, I ended up winning the first 3 tournaments, and then at state I went 4-2 and placed 8th, which someone who's in a bracket with people who have wrestled their whole life is pretty solid. And
Right.
I could tell that there was a lot more to give there. But 8th doesn't really get a lot of notoriety, and I didn't have that many coaches from college coaches or from colleges hitting me up. So made some stuff with some D1 schools, but then I realized there was this league called NAIA, and it's like unlimited scholarships there. Depending on how good you are, how well you drive with a coach, they can get you a scholarship, a full ride, pretty easily, easier than a D1 school because they only give 9.9. So NAI was the way to go, especially like where I come from. We didn't have a lot of money. My family doesn't have a lot of money, so it was a scholarship was going to pay for my college degree.
Right on.
Got my first year at nationals as a true freshman. I wrestle. I'm ranked 11th going into nationals. Take 4th, so I'm already in the national like pool. You know, I'm already top notch there. That's at 165 weight class, and then my sophomore year, the next year, I take 3rd at 174, the next weight class up. My junior year, so my sophomore year, I was peeved to take 3rd. I wanted first, wanted first. And I was supposed to get first. I was like ranked first. I'd beaten everybody in my bracket. But then this D1 transfer came in from Wyoming, and he ended up taking me out like in triple overtime in the semis at nationals. And that was a big hit. That was one of the bigger like wake up call is a weird way to frame it. It wasn't a wake up call, but it was like it was just a hit to my ego again, and it was like it's lit a fire under me. So the next 2 years, I won the national tournament after pivoting, and yeah, I won nationals my junior year and my senior year.
I went back. I went on
large.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I've seen some of your clips from those days, and you seem like a very intense competitor. You get very riled up. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say I take it just so serious. Like I have always taken it serious. I've always been the tryhard, and that's just the way that I compete.
Right.
Sometimes I feel it might be a little too. Like if I'm competing in spike ball with my friend, I take it so serious, and yeah, it's very intense. I'm always intense.
Right. I mean, it shows, and it's interesting because that intensity is needed, right, in the sport in order to get focused, in order to fight. After all, it is a combat sport, be it wrestling or amateur MMA or professional MMA. It's extremely serious. I want to jump back now to your second match against the Iranian named Bibak. I don't know if I'm mispronouncing his name. I apologize if I am. And I'm curious to know, in this match, obviously you beat this competitor. I want to know your feeling going into this match, because it seems that you were both very careful right from the get-go. There was this hesitancy, or this almost kind of like wariness. And I mean, you both have a wrestling background. I think he would as well, because his country is very strong in wrestling, obviously. Well, one of the best countries in the world when it comes to freestyle wrestling. Can you tell us about this match here against the Iranian?
Yeah. So again, this match was unique. When we were in the back warming up, this is an extra layer that was just you couldn't foresee, and there was extra like strings being pulled kind of in the background. Okay. Basically, the Iranian, he wasn't like warming up very hard. Like he wasn't warming up like he had warmed up the day before. So that was already like, that was a weird thought that was going into the coaches and my coaches or my team's head. And we were like, that's weird. Like, I wonder what his plan is. Like, doesn't he know I'm a wrestler kind of thing? Like, doesn't like we're about to wrestle, so like you need your heart rate to start flying and like have a pre-match. So that was weird. That was like a little bit of hesitancy. That's what played out in the first couple minutes. You watched both of us just in that first minute, and I think it was just me understanding once it started, oh, he's looking for like a knockout. Like he wasn't looking to uppercut. He was looking for a knockout punch. Right. And once I realized that, I became more wary, which probably I have to work on myself. But then I realized that like if I start with a little distance and then I do my little shift 1, shift 2, I can cover that distance quickly, and it's going to be really hard to time where my head is with his overhand right or his punch. So yeah, that's when I started like implementing that game plan, and eventually, actually, when I would do those shifts overhand, he started ducking to just dodge it, like
right.
And then that. So when I noticed that underhook when he ducks, lift his head up. So that's exactly how it played out. I went for that shift, he ducked, and I kind of punched him with my hip. I think I dazed him with the hip, hipped him up, basically like hipped his head up, and then I threw my overhand 2, clipped him, he fell, and then if you watch that like ground and pound, I've never ground and pounded that hard, that viciously. Wow. I knew like first this guy's dangerous, and it was just basically this guy's dangerous and I don't want to bring any longer with him. So I went crazy, ground and pounded him like 4 or 5 times with no answer, and then the ref stepped in, stopped it.
Right. Actually, Anthony, would you mind just repeating that a little bit? Because I think we kind of lost you for about a couple of seconds. If you could just go back to just, yeah, if you could retell it, I'll edit it in because I think we've lost a bit of data there.
Okay. Yeah. So once I got the data and understood what he was doing when I would dash forward, I realized that because when I would dash forward, he would just level change and like kind of get compact just in case there was a wrestling scramble. He was like in a good position, but I wanted to lift his head once he ducked. So basically I dashed forward twice, he ducked, and I popped him with my hip, kind of dazed him, popped him with my hip pretty hard. His head came up, and that's when I was able to add the last blow on the feet. Boom, hit him, and then he dropped. And then, like I was saying, it was because he was so dangerous, and because it just seemed dangerous, like him, I felt in danger. So my ground and really vicious. That was the most vicious I felt like I've ever been, and it was just I needed the fight. And so I started ground pounding, hit 3 or 4 shots, and the ref stepped in and stopped the fight.
Yeah, it was a spectacular finish, and from the hit to him dropping, you could tell he was really hurt, and you just jumping on him like a madman and hitting him and finishing in a spectacular fashion. I mean, I think I've seen that clip around on social media. It's quite a spectacular clip, and I'm curious to know at one point you even push him off. Because I mean, I guess you were very in the zone, and you describe it as you said it was the most vicious ground and pound you've ever exerted on someone. Is that correct?
That's correct. That was a critique of myself. Like in my amateur fights in San Diego and even the Pan Ams, I was watching and it looked like I was just peppering shots, like just like touching people, like when I was on top. Right. So that was a critique of it, that I was looking for like harder ground and pound. Can I say that I was thinking while I was ground and pounding the Iranian? Honestly, no. I think it was mostly me feeling like I was in danger because he was looking for that knockout punch, and me needing to get out of there and just start the next. Yeah, which is crazy. Actually, I didn't tell this part. I hurt my hand on the ground and pound.
Oh, wow.
I like hurt my hand for the next day. during the ground and pound with my left hand, and I didn't hit him with any shots besides the ground and pound shots. So it was,
Wow.
through the kind of like damaged my hand. But
what did it mean for you to win in such a fashion, and especially moving on to day three? Well, what were you feeling going into day three? Obviously, with your left hand being hurt, but beyond that, how were you feeling emotionally and all that?
So after there was the emotions from the first fight, feeling complete and feeling well-rounded, finally. Then there's the question of my striking. Like, it's always been, does he have it in him? And then I really showed what I've done in the camp with my striking, and I landed those shots, and I all data in a fight, game plan for it. And like I said, like when he was ducking, I knew that was going to happen the third time. Popped my hip and then set him up for that shot. So I just felt even more complete, and I felt just ready to go. Like, I was on a roll. I just showcased a knockout. The day before, I showcased a submission, and I was just ready to go. I was on a roll. I was on a high for sure.
Right. So you take that high for day three, and you face off against Sultan Omarov from Bahrain. Tell us about this match.
Yeah, this is for me, as I was looking at the bracket, this was like the obstacle, which now looking back on it and always looking back on it, when you give credit to, hold on, am I cutting out a little bit?
You were just before, yes. But
I got
you're
a call.
Good now. Oh, you got
okay.
Do you need to take it or no?
We're good. So looking back, every loss that I've ever taken, it's usually to a guy that I gave credit to in my head before. This one, knowing myself and knowing that I give credit to people and I lose to them, I actually combated that pretty well. Like, if you watch the fight, or actually it's hard to watch. Maybe you watched it on my live, but the fight on my Instagram with Omar, is his name Omar?
It's his last name is Omarov, but his first name is Sultan Omarov.
Omarov. Okay, with Omar. Where was I? You're
talking about if people have watched the fight on your Instagram live.
So as you can see, if anyone gets a hold of the fight, I wasn't holding back. That would be the critique that I would give myself, like, for my other losses. But I wasn't holding back. This was just an all-out war, to be honest. I knew he's got his team on his back. He's got motivation. I had my USA team on my back. There wasn't a lot of USA guys left. I had been trying to motivate everyone in the back that was still in it. Like, we got this. I was just manifesting it. I was there. Mentally, I was in the best spot. It was just an all-out war, and I was on the wrong end of the war, you know? It was such an experience, though. That was fun, having someone matching me in wrestling, someone matching me in striking, someone, if not better in all these positions. So that's what I came for, you know? I came for those looks. I came to fight the best. So I got what I asked for.
Right. Unfortunately, I didn't see the I didn't see the match on IMMAF Live. Pardon me. However, I know that this individual, Omarov, of course, he went on to win the gold in the division. He's the world champion. But it's interesting because he beat all of his. He fought 4 times, and he beat all of his opponents, all 3 of his opponents, 3 out of 4, that is, via submission. But when it came to you, he won via judge's decision. And I'll just read the score here, 28-29, 27-30, and 28-29 for Omarov. Curious to know, if you were to fight him again, what would you do different?
So I'd say the 29-28s were, or the 29-28s, I'm sorry, the close rounds were the first and the second round. I think those could have gone either way. The third round was Omarov's, without a doubt. He probably had, I think, 2 minutes of ground control. What I would do differently in the first and the second round, again, we were just letting it fly. We were banging, trading takedowns. That I can't analyze yet, but as far as the third round, what I would do differently is, well, actually, when my coaches came in between the second and third round, I told them right away, because I was wired. I was dialed in. I said, I have to take him down. Like, we have to ice this fight. If I don't take him down and he takes me down, he wins. If I take him down, I win, type of thing. Whoever gets more control wins this fight. I told them that, and they acknowledged it. They knew what was up. And so essentially the thing that I learned there is when you have the game plan, like, you got to just stick to it. What I did was I tried to have a little more finesse. I tried to show him some shoulder fakes and then throw a little kick in, tried to like dash twice, when in reality, what did I say the game plan was? Go in and take him down. We were exhausted. There would have been maybe a scramble, but whoever shoots first probably would have gotten to the legs. We're fast and quick. We're the most athletic in the weight class, Whoever shoots first is probably going to get their hands locked around the leg and finish. And he shot first, I was trying to set it up and have a little bit of finesse. But when you're in the third round, you don't have all that energy to be finessive, So he ended up taking that shot first and then got to that body lock. And thank goodness the refs, they were aware of, like, if they're body locking too long and the bottom guy's trying to work, the ref will split it up. So he body locked and kind of held there. He had tried to advance to my neck in the first round when he got a takedown. But again, not again, but I didn't feel in danger. And then he kind of knew, like, this isn't a guy I can finish. Like, I have to have everything set up beautifully. Like, it has to go right in so many steps if he wants to finish me. But he knew after my first defense, like, oh, there's no way. Like, this is going to be a fight. So he never tried to advance again. That said, the ref kind of split us up. And then this is in the third round, the ref split us up. And we start trying to bang again. And I throw it stupidly. I throw like a little kick. And he just catches the kick and takes me down again. So that's where it was pretty much the game plan. I didn't execute the game plan,
I'm hoping I could see this match. Unfortunately, I didn't see it, but I'll go back on your. I think I went on your Instagram to see if I could find it. I couldn't find it, but maybe afterwards you could share it with me, because I'm really curious to see the match. And of course, if people are watching this, make sure you check out all the matches except for that one, because it's not available on IMMAF Live, unfortunately. Yeah. But all the other ones are there, so it's all good. I have a lot of follow-ups to ask you. One of which is, what was your preparation like for this major tournament? What did you, and I think you alluded to that in the beginning with your coach. Tell us about the preparation, and if you could tell us a little bit about your coach and or your coaches, your team that was behind you.
Yeah, so preparation, I had a solid. So my team is one coach right now, local, one coach, and about eight amateurs and 2 pros. So we have a lot of talent in the room, but we don't have a lot of coaching. Basically, we don't have a lot of coaching then and there every practice at 4 p.m. My coach and my teammates dedicated all of their rounds and all of their focus on me for 6 weeks. Wow. So we had a true, from January 1st, like since 2023 to February 14th, I think it was February 10th-ish, basically until the IMMAF tournament, everyone was focused on me, and it meant the world. And it basically showed me, like, what a good teammate is. So for me, now I know what to do when my teammates have a fight. It showed me what a good teammate is. It showed me how good of a coach I have in my corner. And it showed me the abilities that you can build in a camp, like when it's focused around you. Because like I said, that arm triangle, I had practiced multiple times in that camp, hadn't before 2023. Didn't really have a submission in my fights before then. My striking, I didn't have a knockout. Like, I didn't have a knockout like that. I didn't have my timing down, So it was just awesome to see. And that now I really understand, like, what a team is and what kind of team I have. And it makes me want to stay more, and it makes me want to build everyone else more in that room. So it was a good experience. It was a good learning experience all around. Oh, and then that's my coach, right? That's my coach, Coach Vince Salvador. There's Vince Salvador's partner, Chuck Martinez, is my other coach. He's the other guy that was in my corner. I met him about a year ago, and they were always in the room together. But Chuck had to move to New Jersey. So now Chuck flies in whenever there's a big fight. So now Chuck's always supporting me. He was no question going to go to Serbia with me and be a part of the team. But yeah.
Right on. I want to go back to you're obviously the IMMAF PanAmerican Champion. What did winning gold at this major tournament mean for you and your MMA sports career?
Yeah. The Pan Ams. Well, that was my first international tournament,
right,
all on its own. And it meant, it kind of solidified that I was a top-notch competitor and I deserved to be there. And it meant a lot because at the time there was word that we were gonna have IMMAF in like Dubai. So that was just like a buzzword. I loved that word. I was like, Dubai, let's go. So it meant a lot because it meant that I had a chance, I had a shot at the future, you know, because that's such an important stepping stone. If like Pan Ams, I put my name on the map, and then I was ranked, I think, like top 12 in IMMAF at that point. So basically, I put the mix, and I knew I needed to be in the mix if I want to get to where I want to go. So it meant a lot. It was a stepping stone for sure.
Now, I really appreciate your honesty and your openness to these questions here. I have a follow-up, if you don't mind me asking. Did you feel, now you went into the world as a medalist at the Pan Americans, you know, so you already went in there as a champion, respectfully. Did you feel any pressure because of that, because you had medaled and won gold in the Americas? You know, you're the best in the Americas, and by Americas I mean North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. When I say the Americas, so did you feel that sort of pressure going in to medal at the Worlds? In the end, you placed fifth out of 29 or 30 competitors, which is incredible. You know, absolutely incredible. But did you feel that sort of additional pressure to make the podium at the Worlds?
It's tough. I felt more so. I felt the pressure for like showing out for my family and for my friends and just like people that know what I'm capable of. I think I proved to everybody like in the MMA community that I was the best. So I didn't feel like there was pressure. Like there wasn't a question whether someone else should be there, you know? Because I handled the Pan Americans so well. I think I won 2 by not TKO, and I won the 3rd by like obvious or unanimous decision. So there was no question I was the representative that should be there. But there was pressure on my family and friends side because I actually made a GoFundMe and so many people like helped me out, and it just felt like, oh my gosh, everyone came together to make this monetary goal like reality. So to me, like them sending their money is just such a big thing, and that was like a lot of pressure. Like I don't want to waste everyone's money, like because everyone works so hard for their money, you know.
Right.
It's just how I feel about sharing my money. Like if I would share my money only if I really like trusted someone or like wanted them to win or wanted the best for them. So I guess when you look at it like that, should there have been pressure? I don't know. I think they love me either way. But yeah, that's how I feel. I think pressure mostly from my family, friends, not so much from like the MMA community. And
a very interesting answer as far as family and friends and all that support. And I'm sure that's very important to any athlete, of course. If I can ask another follow-up, as far as your overall training, you know, you're obviously doing the grappling, the striking, mixed martial arts, the strength and conditioning, I would imagine. Are you exploring other forms of training in terms of like, say, sports psychology? Is there any of those sorts of things that you and the team have explored?
So that's an interesting question, and I have had personally a lot of some psychological like coaching, and that was all kudos to my mental coach at Menlo College. In my 4 college years, the team was so elite, and we wanted another edge, and we were the best team on our campus. So it was clear that if we needed to budget for something, we could. They got a mental coach on the roster, and every Wednesday we had Wednesday wisdom, and he would always bring in. If you've read or audiobooked the 33 Strategies of War, like there's so many lessons in that, and every single strategy and stuff, and like that's the type of stuff that our coach would bring to us, along with conversations that he's had with the other greats, because he's very well knitted in the wrestling community. Okay. So man, did he help our mentalities. One good one that I carry with me everywhere is you need to reframe your nervousness and reframe it as excitement. Like if you look at the two emotions, when you're nervous, what happens? Your hands sweat, your heart rate starts rising, your senses kind of start narrowing in. And what happens when you're excited? Your hands sweat, your heart rate rises, and your senses narrow in. You can reframe that as excitement and talk about how you're excited. Some people don't want to talk about how they're nervous, but talk about how you're excited, you know? It's that's a lesson that I really carry with me. But that's all kudos to the wrestling side of my past. I'm trying to actually implement it at my MMA team. It's a little not less useful, but I mean, it's a little less applicable because we fight so far and few between. In wrestling, you needed to get ready for war every weekend, you know?
Right.
So,
right.
But yeah.
It's really interesting what you're saying there, because from the clips that I've seen of you in your wrestling, I could tell. I'm like, oh my God, this guy, there's almost like, if I can say this, and I don't know if you're a fan of professional wrestling, but you almost have this showmanship like of excitement and energy, which is entertaining to see. And we see a lot of that now in professional mixed martial arts and amateur mixed martial arts. And it's very marketable. But it's also it tells a good story, you know, because even in your matches at the Worlds, we could tell you came there with that intensity, and it's raw and it's ready, and it's you can't fake that. That's just, you know, someone who's excited to fight and compete. I'd like to know, what was it like to be part of Team USA at the Worlds? How was the team's morale and energy throughout the tournament? You kind of mentioned, you know, trying to get everyone motivated and so on. So I'm curious if you could talk about the team, your overall experience with the team, and if there are any funny stories you care to share.
Yeah. Okay. So the team, contrary to, I don't know what belief people have about the team, but I think going into it, I was looking at the other teams and I saw how close they were, and I think that they trained together often. The USA team was stitched together from points across the US, and we had never been in the same training room except for at Pan Am's. And then there was a really cool experience that the coaches put together at the UFC PI.
Right.
So the only 2 times we've ever trained was Pan Am's and that camp in Vegas at the PI. So we weren't necessarily the closest, but being across the world in Serbia really brought us closer together, and having the same bright USA outfits on, it really brought a camaraderie that I wasn't expecting. Okay. And yeah, those USA outfits were bright. We're shiny. And when we first saw them, we were like, no way, dude. Like, are you serious? But they were so gnarly. But once we all had them on, it was like, this is the USA. Like, we are riding in, soaring in on eagles, you know? Like, it was so fun. Like, we all loved it. after the first day, we were like, it's growing on me.
Right on.
So funny. But they were shiny, and it did bring us all together. We were all becoming best friends back there. I really loved when we huddled for the first day, or like after our practice on the first day, how the coaches were basically saying, "Hey, I'm here. I traveled with these two guys, but I'm here for all of you. If any of you want to pick if any of you, if your coach needs to like step out for a second and you need me to hold mitts for you, I'm here for you." Like, so all the coaches were 10 toes down for everybody. They were ready to help anyone out on the team, and that was really nice to hear. I had two coaches and a warm-up partner, but it was nice to know that everyone on my team, all my teammates, had the necessary like warm-up or had the necessary structure,
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome to see us kind of come together. Those outfits really did it.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
And then those crazy outfits did it. Those crazy outfits brought over Meatball Molly at one point. She's hilarious. She was like, she made a joke about how flashy it was and how dorky it was, and I was like, that's why you want this sweater, huh? And then she was like, I kind of do, because she just saw the USA team, and over the course of the 2 days, like, we became friends, and she just came up to us and kept chatting with us and kept poking us. And at the end of it, she became like a best friend for me. We were like just talking and chatting the whole time, and she was showing me like specific tactics, like she has a red light, green light, a yellow light, like type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
She has a strategy, and she was explaining that. But Meatball Molly, man, she's a funny one. She came up to my partner that I specifically brought, and I was like, mess with him. Like, yeah, mess with him. Like, I was trying to instigate, and she goes over and she goes, cheese touch. She goes, here's the cheese touch, and like kicks him in the back of the neck, or like lightly like pushes his neck with. I was like, oh my goodness, like, this girl's so grimy. And then he turns around, he's like, what the heck? I don't even know you. That's where it all started, So it was just fun and games back there the whole time.
So I'm curious to know, by the way, if you could talk to us a little bit about the amateur MMA scene in the U.S., because I've interviewed fighters from, I guess, basically all over the world. At the amateur level, I've had the opportunity to interview in mixed martial arts and other amateur sports. What's it like being? What's the amateur MMA scene like in the United States? And I ask this because, we know that Vegas, particularly the UFC, I mean, the whole world watches Ultimate Fighting Championship on the professional side. And we know that the infrastructure for combat sports is huge in the US. There's a ton of great big gyms, great coaches. The whole world goes to the US to train, right? As you know, obviously. So paint that picture for us, but from the amateur perspective, what is the amateur mixed martial arts scene like in the US? And I'm curious to know from a fighter's perspective.
Yeah. So I fight at this promotion called Epic. It's truly, that's the name. It's Epic. They have media all over. For us, like a week out, I've fought there 4 times, and I've done 4 interviews, all done by the president of the promotion. Okay. He's like really in touch. He really sets the scene for us. Marketing everywhere. He interviewed me before my fight. It was broadcasted on the pay-per-view. We have the best quality, like, security for the fighters in the back. Like, we're taken care of. Anyone can get wrapped whenever they want. It is pristine in San Diego at this promotion. There's like multiple photographers there. You have footage from all your fights, and it's high quality, and it's like it's one of the coolest atmospheres. It's at the 4 Point Sheraton, and it's packed out all the time. Like, crazy experience. That's in San Diego. You drive up north an hour and a half, you have Spar Star. I haven't fought there, but I have a few buddies that fight out of there, and they say it's about the same quality. Like it's also a high quality. They pour a lot of money. Basically, the money they make, they pour right back in because they just want to grow it and grow it and grow it. Right. You can really see Epic and Spar Star are like the premier amateur fight promotions on this is the Mississippi. Like I've heard of a few people traveling for amateurs, but it's not the same. Like they'll never fight outside of Epic or Spar Star.
Right, but in terms of like the amateur, so you know, you went to the Worlds and you saw quite the range of you saw the best in the world as far as amateur MMA. What are your sorry, this is a follow-up. What's your opinion of the quality of MMA from the athletes and so on at that global level? From your experience at the World, what sort of insight would you share about that?
Got it. I think for me, I haven't had a very tough amateur match in San Diego, just because my wrestling credentials. I think if I hadn't wrestled, then it would be tough. Like there's a lot of skilled guys, but most of the guys that I fought, if they were strikers, they had no wrestling. So I kind of just took advantage of that strength and got in and took them out pretty quickly. That said, my teammates that were on the USA team, a couple of them are from LA. Those guys are studs. Like those guys they fight at Spar Star and they're super skilled and they're at Spar Star. I don't know their experience at Spar Star. I don't know if they've had tough matches or anything, but I don't know. I don't want to say San Diego, or I don't want to say the area is not skilled, but I think I'm just clearly like light years ahead of the amateurs. Okay. That they were like, for example, my first fight, I wanted to tell you the story. My first fight, I signed up for the fight a month before. Basically, the fight was October 29th, October 1st. I didn't even have a fighting coach.
Wow.
Did I cut out there?
Yeah, for a second.
Did I cut out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll tell it again. I signed up for the fight on the end of October. Oh my gosh. I signed up October 1st, had the fight October 31st. And I didn't even have an MMA coach. Wow. I had never done MMA training. So I basically forced myself to get in there because this was make or break. I'd been telling people, yeah, I want to start MMA. Never did though. So I needed to put an opponent in front of me. And then I went into the fight basically having no formal training. I went in knowing that my wrestling would pretty much show out, and fought a striker. And after I tried to like strike, I realized I had no idea what I was doing. So I just wrestled him, took him down, and ended up ground and pounding him. TKO.
Wow.
Yeah, that's like just where my wrestling's at. Like I can just step into the fight and pretty much beat anyone that I need to. Just control anyone.
Right. I want to follow up on that, but before I do, I have one last question in regards to the Worlds. You mentioned earlier on that after your third match, you know, you decided to kind of just enjoy the process because you needed to go. I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, you just wanted to go in and kind of chill out and enjoy the rest of your time there in Belgrade. How was Belgrade? I would imagine it's your first time there. Can you tell us what was your overall impression of Belgrade, Serbia?
Sorry, it connected to my phone connected at the time, but you asked how was Belgrade?
Yeah, how was Belgrade? How did you enjoy your time there? Because after your third fight, you mentioned that you kind of took time to kind of just relax and calm down and all that sort of stuff and enjoy the city. What are your thoughts on Belgrade, Serbia?
Oh, Belgrade, Serbia is awesome. It was a culture shock too. there's a lot of art on the walls everywhere. It's like there's a lot of art everywhere, and when you dive into like a random shop, or like we went to like a couple bars, like there's just so much I don't know how to say it, but I think there's spunk, and there's like an ancient factor. Like it's way older than the shops that I'm used to in the US. Like everything's up to code here. Like when you go to Serbia, you have trinkets that were from, I don't know, 1600 type of thing. Like it's just an ancient city, I feel like. And there's castles on the top of rolling green hills that are just there for show.
Wow.
And it was cool to see. Like I'm struggling to find the right word, but I think ancient's doing its job.
Fair enough. How were the people? Were the people friendly? How were the people?
Dude, when you would come into a random grocery store, there's like older ladies that worked there, and maybe they weren't so happy to help you out, like, because when you're there, like, you're buying fruit, like, you need to punch in a code and then get a sticker for your fruit, and then you could scan it. I didn't know that, so at some points they were frustrated. Yeah, we didn't know that, so they were frustrated at some points. But when I was just walking around the city, I had some of the best experiences meeting people, and I met all the street vendors. I was just out and about, like, making sure I said hi to everybody, and their street vendors are super tasty. And the people, if you ask them if they speak English and you ask them, they'll help you wherever you need to go. So those, I love it. They're in my book as good people.
Right on. So overall, it was a great experience for you. Was this your first time in Europe?
First time in Europe.
Wow. Awesome. I have two more questions. I really appreciate your time, Anthony. I'm curious to know, you mentioned earlier on that you're going to be turning pro. You're going to be competing as a professional. What professional mixed martial artist, what are you working on now in terms of your fight game? What are you zoning in on and focusing on to develop and elevate your game even higher?
Yeah, so I think I have the ability to be just as creative as one of the greats, John Jones. Adding the layers with the knees and adding the layers with the elbows, and being able to go in there and let loose. I think I can be just as creative, and I can throw things that some guys have never even seen. And pretty much I'm just developing my style. I have 3 months until June, till the fight's scheduled. Or am I wrong? Some amount of months.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right.
So I see John Jones, and I study like what I can on him, and I see how creative he is, and I'm just peppering in creativity into my own game. And man, it's been awesome to see. Obviously, there's like, I got to crisp up all these new techniques, but there's new opportunities. There's elbows, there's knees. Just working on those and keeping what works in my game and what doesn't work, keeping it out.
We did see you use some vicious knees in your match against Ivanov from Bulgaria. I did note that in my notes here. I saw a very strong clinch, and you delivered like vicious knees to him at the end of the match there, right to his stomach. So it's interesting that you're exploiting that. How tall are you, by the way? Are you like 5'11", 6?
Yeah, I'm like I always said 5'11", but my girlfriend always wants to keep me humble. I think I'm 5'10".
5'10". Okay, you seem very tall. Like, yeah, at first I'm like, what is he like 6'2", 6? And how much? What's your regular walking weight? Are you 185 or do you?
I'm about 185.
Okay, right on. So one last question for you. Tell us a bit more about your next competition. I think you mentioned it from the top, and where we can follow you in your journey, because I'm curious to see how you do at the professional level. I might come back and interview you after that if you want. So I'm just curious to know if you could plug your next fight and where we can follow you.
Well, yeah. Well, and first I want to compliment you. Like, this is a great interview. Thank you for listening so coherently and just like really being involved. I appreciate it, and always free to interview again. I'm down after my pro debut. But yeah, the pro debut is at Cage Warriors on June 2nd. Don't have an opponent yet, so we're hoping it's still going to be a fight. But that's essentially the news about that. You can follow me on Instagram at Antony Oroz. That's the first 4 letters of my last name. And anything else? Did I miss something?
No, if there's any piece of last question, if there's any piece of advice you'd want to share to any amateur mixed martial artists in their future competitions, be it at the Pan Ams or the Worlds, what would it be?
Yeah, okay. So I would say technical wise, if you're trying to get better with technique, I would say flow as much as you can. When you get in the room, don't be in there and try and like stiff your teammates. Like get in there and let them take their shots. Let them take their shots, and then you scramble from there and then learn new positions, but flow and like expose new ways to do new things. And that's how the greats do it. I'm assuming that's how I know John Bones Jones does it. He's always flowing. Always trying to figure out new angles for things. If you go in there really tight, you're never going to learn. So on the technical side, always flow. On the mental side, just always remind yourself that one tactic is I always remind myself that I'm a champion. No matter what, who I am, where I am, like you are a champion and you have the ability to be great. So I just remind myself every day that that's a possibility. And I tell myself, what would someone who's great do?
Wow.
And what is someone who is great? What would they do?
Right.
And that really gives me a clear path as to what I should be doing. And that's one good.
That's awesome, my friend. That is incredible advice. Hell, I'm going to take that advice and run with it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Take care, brother. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much and have a great day, and we'll be in touch.
Definitely, man. Cheers.